things that he was talking about is the difference in what's called a full frame versus a crop sensor camera. And if you notice, if you look inside the two cameras, one's smaller, one's bigger. Okay, a crop sensor camera is predominantly the same size as remember film. You guys remember film, right? You're not that young. The 35 millimeter frame, that's a full frame, and it's always referenced back to film. This is crop sensor, so it's like 24 millimeters versus 35 millimeter size, basically. The fuller frame is going to give you more quality, and it's typically going to be higher resolution cameras that are going to be in the full frame format. And whereas video is concerned, your quality from the video standpoint is going to be much better. Now we have 3 different lenses between his camera, this camera, and that camera. And your lenses, for example, this lens is rated 24 millimeters to 105 millimeters. That's the range. It's a wide-angle zoom lens. This lens on that camera, you have to multiply those numbers, 24 by 105, by 1.6 in CAN. So in essence, you're looking at about 38 to 150, the actual focal length, the actual distance that the lens is on this camera.
Because of the sensor.
Because of the sensor. When the sensor is smaller, the multiplication factors increases. And so that's just something you have to think about as well in terms of when you're selecting your equipment if you don't have it.
And the size of your camera too. A lot of times somebody comes in and says, well, you know, because my friend is a pro, so he shoots with a 5D or so forth, and when I bring out the camera, they're like, but I didn't think it was that big. And you can feel the weight considerably between some of the smaller cameras, which will also give you the 1080 video aspect as opposed to one of the full frame ones. So you always have to take that into consideration too. Because I've always said the best camera is the one that's with you. And you end up getting something that you're not going to be willing to carry, and then you go back to trying to work with something like this. You want to make sure that you get something that's going to work for you. That's why we offer the rental program also, where that way you can rent the product before actually purchasing the product to know what's going to work better for you. You can pass that on?
Yeah. I also noticed in there's a button in the back that looks like the camera, picture of the back of the camera. If you press it, it turns the screen on so you can see through the screen. And that's called Live View. Okay. Now, just to give you an idea in terms of, I guess, a price point. This is the 2nd generation of that camera. There's a 3rd generation, which is the more current model. So there's, of the 5, there's 4 generations of that camera right now. That particular one is brand new. It's what, 32?
The Mark II?
Mark II.
27.
$2,700, just to give you an idea of price point wise. The lens that's on it, that one's a 20 to 35. That's about
No, I got the 20 to 35. That's the 24 to 105.
That's
so
20. Okay, that's a 24 to 105. So
Yeah.
that's $1,100 lens. Just again, just to give you an idea.
So you have about $4 grand.
In your hand, yes, or no problem. But it's, you know, I can honestly say from my own experience, the amount of equipment that you have doesn't really mean anything. It's the quality of the product that you have in the end. So you don't have to have the most expensive piece of equipment.
You know what, to piggyback right on that, it's very simple. What I always say, my saying is this: it's not the arrow that kills you, it's the Indian behind it. All right. So you can have a really sharp arrow, have the best weapons in the world. If you don't know how to use them, then what? That's it.
It's useless. Then it's just a piece of equipment in your hand. But again, so that said, it makes a difference. But I mean, I learned, photography. I'm more a photographer than I am a videographer. But I learned photography on a real simple camera with a simple lens, and learned that the lenses will have more impact on the quality of your work than the body. I mean, and I've seen pictures taken with cheesy cameras, cheesy bodies and good lenses. it makes a difference. So, you know, just something to keep in mind going forward. But, you know, it makes a difference whether you get, you know, and you know, you got to get what you can afford at the same time as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, you may want a $10,000 camera, but if the pocketbook only says, you know, $500 camera, then that's what you get. That's what you're going to wind up getting. But what that does, that always gives you something to want to grow into. So you always have room for growth. The other thing about these, there's small type point and shoot cameras that don't have interchangeable lenses, and those types of cameras are great. They do video and they're good, and it's but there's very little growth potential with that kind of equipment. You're kind of limited. Here you can change lenses, you can add flash, you can add so many different accessories to it, and grow and make what you're doing that much better. And that's one of the things that, you know, that we're always trying to do. I myself am always trying to be better. I learn, I listen to things that he says when he's talking about video, because he knows video better than I do, and I learn from that. You know, you always got to pay attention to what your surroundings are, what's going on. If you go to a wedding, you ever watch the people doing that work, the video and the photographer? I do all the time. I pay attention, and I have no problem with going up to them, not interrupting them, but in a downtime and asking them questions. And they're very friendly in most cases, and they answer your questions for you. But that's the kind of thing that, you know, I learned. I'm a self-taught photographer. I didn't go to school for photography. And I learned by talking to people and asking questions and making mistakes. You got to make mistakes. It's not going to come out exactly the way you want to, but anytime you look at that and you look at your work, your body of work, you got to say, well, what can I do to make it better? Every time you look at it, your own work. You got to be your worst, best critic. Okay, because you know, he can look at your work and he can give you his opinion. I can look at your work and I can give you my opinion. But if you yourself don't feel that the quality of what you're doing is where it needs to be, that's your goal, that's your motivation to make it better.
Yeah.
To get it to that point where you want it to be as good as it can be. And if you ever feel that that's the best work, then it's time to do something else. That's how I feel. That's me saying that.
100%.
Because we can always learn. It's never perfect, but we always strive for perfection. You know, I'm old school. I don't like, I mean, I shoot pictures and I don't like editing pictures. I have to do it, but I don't like to. So as much as I can, when I shoot an image, I try to record that image as best as I possibly can in the camera. So I have to do it
What does that
on the
mean?
computer.
There you go, thank you.
What was it?
So the analog, to do it analog is better than to do it digital. You can do it, anything you want later on digital, in post-production, that's fine. But if you get it right in analog, then you've done more than half the work, okay? And
That's, yeah, that's so true. And I've never heard it quite said like that, but I like that. But yeah, it makes a world of difference. And that's how I am about my own work. And I make no claim to fame to being the best photographer around here, but I think I'm good. I mean, I'm confident in what I do. And I know this equipment really well. And I know how to make it work for me, you know. And I use Nikon equipment personally. I use Canon equipment personally. I use just about anything out there. Just a real quick background on me. I've been a photographer for over 25 years. And I've been in the industry of dealing with camera equipment for about that same amount of time. And besides where I'm at Electric Avenue, I work for a company called Wolf Camera, if any of you have ever heard of Wolf Camera, for 20 years. He's got it in, what, 15 years with the same company. So just between him and I alone, there's a lot of years of experience that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's something that, you know, we live, breathe, and eat it. This is what we do. And you need to surround yourself with people that, you know, you're never gonna go to a poor man and ask him how to get rich, because he's not gonna know how, because he's poor. I mean, that's the truth. So if you want to learn your craft, you gotta be around people that know your craft. Or you gotta surround yourself.
And they're passionate.
And they're passionate about it.
You know?
That's key to it, you know. And it's something that, you know, me on my own, I've always done it as, it started out as a hobby. You know, one of my coworkers actually one day said to me, hey, come to my brother's wedding, take some pictures. And I did. And they gave me a check when I was done. And I said, wow, this is cool, I can do this. You know, but as good as some of the pictures may have been, or as bad as some of the other pictures may have been, I got to a point where I wanted to learn more. Not so much to make money, but because I enjoyed it. And I like taking pictures of people, more so than like mountains and landscapes and stuff like that. That's just me. But it's something that when, you know, when I go to a job, whether it's a wedding or whatever it might be, and I've had to go in and do videos, small videos, but it's something that you have to learn the equipment to get the results. You know what I mean? And that's, you know, and that's what he's teaching you, and all of the things that he's going to teach you, you know, take heed to it. Don't take it with a grain of salt, because it's all valuable. Don't assume that one piece of information is less valuable than another piece of information, because you never know when it's going to come up and you're going to need it. So.
Yeah, and speaking of learning, about 12 years ago, my life changed. That's a whole other story, because of a book I read. A book changed my life. And so, 3 words that I never forgot from that book was learn how to learn. 4 words, learn how to learn. If you learn how to learn, I promise you, you know, it's going to change the way you view the world. It's going to change the way you, with this thing, as far as video and film and lighting and all these different things you guys want to do. If you learn how to learn, you're going to be set for life. You'll be able to do anything you want. And when he started, as far as video, I've only been doing it for about 12 years now. But even then, you know, 12 years ago, there was no Google. You know what I'm saying? So that's the craziest thing, you know, like 12 years ago, there was no Google, you know? Yeah, there was internet and there was other stuff, whatever, but you had to know about things, you know, in order for you to research it, you know what I mean?